Hey, this is Yulia and welcome to my channel. Here I talk all things Canada, learning languages, travel in the world, and today we'll be talking about Canada and the US. Which country is better for a student? Where should you go study? Well, let's find out together. First things first, education, grants, scholarships. We all know that the US is a very generous country. It offers a whole bunch of financial aid, scholarships, and grants to both local and international students. And it doesn't matter if you go to Stanford, if you go to a small university, I don't know, in North Carolina, you can find scholarships everywhere. And sometimes these scholarships can even cover the whole tuition fees, and sometimes they can cover the cost of living and your paperwork, application fee, and all the kind of stuff. Unfortunately, in Canada, you won't find that kind of scholarships for international students unless you are a graduate student. If you are planning to get a master's degree, if you're planning to get a PhD, you can for sure find some scholarships that will cover at least your tuition fees. There is a reason behind that. And it is that Canada doesn't want to, spend money on undergrad students who don't know what they want to do in their life, unlike the grad students who are already, pursuing PhD in physics. They kind of know what they want to do in their life. So that's why we don't have full tuition cost scholarships. Also, in colleges, you can find scholarships, but they're not gonna cover all your expenses. Again, I received a scholarship of $3,000. If you haven't seen my video about the scholarships, I'll link it here. Again, both Canada and the US offer a lot of financial aid for the local people, for permanent residents, for Canadians and Americans. So you can apply for bursaries, for low-income financial aid, for different kind of stuff. So if you're looking for full funded scholarships, that I would say go to the US if you are an undergrad student. If you are a graduate student, then both countries provide that kind of financial support to students, so it's just up to you. And the second thing is immigration programs. As you all know from this channel, from other channels, Canada has a lot of immigration programs. The US has less. And the biggest, difference in these two countries is that after studying in the US, you will need to find an employer who will then help you with all your visa and green card. But in Canada, if you study for 2 years, you will get your work permit for 3 years, and it's gonna be an open work permit, meaning you don't need to find an employer right away. You can just work wherever you want, for any company, any employer, do whatever the hell you want, and then you can apply for your residency. You're not limited to anything as long as you're working legally. That's it. Again, for people who know what they want to do, where they want to work, or they, contacted the potential employer, they can go to the States because they'll be like, hey, I graduate from this and then I go work there and the company helps me. All good. But if you're not sure what you want to do, where you want to work, then Canada is definitely a better option. But bear in mind that salaries are higher in the US, but it depends on the industry you're working in. Minimum wage in the US varies from, $3-4 an hour till whatever, $10. In Canada, it's 14 Canadian dollars. So basically around 11-12 US. But this minimum wage in the States applies to the restaurant workers, bar workers. So you can pay less your servers, and then they're gonna get tips, and then this is how they make money. In Canada, the minimum is $14, but then if you work in a bar or at a restaurant, you can get $10-11 per hour, but then again, you'll get tips and you'll kind of make money. In IT, for sure, the States wins because salaries in IT are enormous, but a very important thing to know that living in the US is gonna be more expensive. Canada is definitely cheaper for living, buying houses, renting, if we're talking about kind of similar cities. So if we're talking about Vancouver, we should compare it to LA, San Fran. If you compare in Austin, which has 950,000 population, and Toronto, that has 6 or even more million of people, and then say, well, it's cheaper to live in Texas. Well, yeah, because those cities are different. So if you're comparing a big city, please compare it to a big city as well. But US is cheaper in another way. If you want to buy gadgets, if you want to buy, I don't know, clothing, if you want to buy TV, whatsoever, you can buy it cheaper than in Canada. One thing that it's cheaper in general. The second thing, some states don't have sales tax, like New Hampshire. Some states have very small sales tax, like Hawaii, they have 4%. So in Canada, let's say in Quebec, you pay 15% of the sales tax, while in New Hampshire, you will pay 0. So if you're planning to buy, I don't know, a new camera, then you'd rather go to states and get it there. Another important thing to note is healthcare. In Canada, we pay a lot of taxes, but we get free healthcare. So in the US, there is no such thing as free healthcare. It's at some point some kind of private organization that provides you with insurance and the healthcare. Again, I'm not an expert in the US kind of thing, but as far as I know, if you are low income, then you can get some free healthcare, like free insurance or something like that. If you're like above the limit, then you'll need to get a private insurance, but it's gonna be expensive, so you're kind of like stuck in between of poor people and rich people because you're in the middle, and like, I don't know. In Canada, healthcare is free for everyone. So if healthcare is something that concerns you, if you need access to healthcare like right away, so you can like, you know, call and be like, hey, like I wanna whatever, have a dental appointment, and you don't want to pay for that, then Canada is definitely a better option. But again, if you are working in the US, most likely you will have your private insurance covered by the company you're working for. So yeah, I would like take a look at both of them. The next thing to think about is safety. I've mentioned it many times that guns are not prohibited in the US, while in Canada you're not allowed, you cannot even buy a gun. I've heard some people say it's totally fine. In some states you cannot possess a gun, which is a good thing. So if you're planning to move to the US and guns and your safety is something that concerns you, then you should probably take a look at the state and see the laws, like how things are going in that state. Because if you do your research and see in what states the guns and like firearms are legalized, then you can be like, okay, I'm not going here, I'm not going here, I'm going here. But again, in Canada we have legal weed. For some people it's a disadvantage as well, but if you haven't seen my video about disadvantages, you can watch it here, so I don't spend too much time on covering it right now. Another thing you should be aware of is the official languages. In Canada we have two, which are English and French. In the US, they do not have an official language. Yes, most of the US speaks English or Spanish, but they do not have an official language. And if you Google official language US, it's gonna say the US has no official language. But we all know that people speak English and Spanish, and again, depending on the state, on the city. So do your research so you don't end up being, you know, in a Spanish-speaking state. The next thing is not very important, but I think it's a good to know thing, and it's the metric systems in the US. They have all things different, like Fahrenheit, they have miles, they have pounds, you name it. In Canada, we have a mix of both. So let's say you're driving and we're gonna have the sign saying 40 km. So we're not using miles. But if you go to the store and you wanna get some meat for dinner, then you'll have prices both in kilos and in pounds. Sure thing. The temperature in Canada is measured in Celsius, but if you are making a shepherd's pie, then your oven's gonna say 400 Fahrenheit. So in Canada we have this weird mix of both worlds, like, Europe and the US. So some things might be in kilometers, others gonna be in miles, Celsius, Fahrenheit. So that's the reality we live in. And the last but not the least is people. I feel like people both in Canada and in the US are very nice, very friendly. They always, trying to help you if you're like stuck in the middle of nowhere. I don't think a car will pass and be like, whatever, just like do your thing. No, people are super nice. I've been to the US many times. I've lived in Canada for the past 6 years, so I feel like, yeah, I wouldn't say Americans are nicer or Canadians are nicer. I guess it depends on the city a lot, because I went both to like New York and then I went to Kill Devil Hills, which is a tiny city in North Carolina. And in Kill Devil Hills, people were super nice because you literally have 10 houses and people know each other. So you'll be walking by and a person will be like, hey, how's it going? How was your day? Blah, blah. If you go to Toronto, there are a lot of people, so people won't be nice to you because, a lot of people, everyone has stuff to do. So it really depends on the city and on the person, I guess. Would I personally go to the US? Well, it depends on many things. If I was an undergrad student, most likely I would go to the US so I can get, full coverage on my tuition fees, which is a nice thing. If I was an IT person or some highly qualified worker, sure, I might go to the US as well, because the United States is the land of opportunity. The salaries are nice, but again, the cost of living is not that nice. So, you need to take a look first at the ratio, like salaries versus the cost of living. So you kind of, like not live from paycheck to paycheck. If I had a family and kids, I would most likely pick Canada because Canada is safer, it's quieter, but again, it depends on the city. Maybe there are like some cities in the States where you can live with a family and it's gonna be totally fine. Like, before picking a country or picking a city, do your research, make a list. Okay, this is what I want in my future place of living. This is what I don't want in my future place of living. And then write those things down and find the best place for you. If you're planning to move to Canada or to the US, I wish you best of luck. Everything will be amazing and I'll see you very soon. Bye!